Give us a second. There we go. Are we good? Welcome to everyone logging in. I think you might have been on the last couple of sessions. We do apologise. It's been so enthralling that we actually have run over by a couple of minutes. We can see that there are some questions being asked, so we will be able to answer them over the session there. Excellent. So we'll start then. Viewers, welcome to Scenic Eclipse, the world's first Discovery Yachts Arctic presentation. Today we've taken you through the ship and Antarctica, and now we offer you a region that's on your sights. And these are remote destinations that really previously were out of reach. When you've undertaken a cruise here, it will leave you with an indelible impression. And some of the epic journeys we will undertake in this part of the world are the Northwest and Northeast passages, representing centuries of effort by explorers, including our own Captain James Cook, who discovered Australia, apparently. And they are all looking, and were looking, to find a route that connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The Arctic in depth, Iceland, Greenland, Svalbard, the Russian Arctic, Siberia, and the Russian Far East are just some of the places we will look at. Over the edition, we'll explain what it takes to set the benchmark in ultra luxury ocean cruising, but also how this allows us, and Jason will help us with that, to navigate through this frozen sea corridor when the ice has receded enough and allows our yacht to navigate the channels. Well, viewers, as you know, my name, if you've been on a session today, is Zena, and I'm one of the Scenic Eclipse sales teams in Australia. And I am also very happy to introduce now Jason, who is our Expedition Operations Manager for Scenic Discovery Yachts. Jason, welcome. And this is not your debut anymore, it's your third session.
I know. I feel like I'm running room to room to room. But thank you so much for having me. I mean, it truly is my pleasure and honor to be here. And as some of you may have heard, and if not, my background, I'm actually based in the Southwest of the United States, where I'm at right now. I have over 35 years in the outdoor industry and in wilderness search and rescue as well. And I also served in the Navy in my early 20s, and that's where I really fell in love with the sea and being out there. I've also been guiding and managing programs in Antarctica for over 10 years now, with over 50 times going back and forth to the Arctic and Antarctic itself. So, but I did join Eclipse on board in Croatia when she was still in the shipyards getting ready for her maiden voyage. And at that time, I got there early to basically put together the operations of the expedition program, all the equipment and everything, getting it organized before we got the Discovery team on board and before we sailed for her maiden voyage to Iceland. And since then, becoming the Expedition Operations Manager, I oversee the entire Discovery program and all the Discovery guides on board.
Oh, that is so amazing. And you're going to help us so much. For most of us in the antipodes, traveling into a part that is so far north for us is such a great travel ambition. So with your expertise, Jason, I think you're going to be able to help us in this part of the world as well, and help reveal, I guess, what makes this such a unique journey. We're all here to look after you, so let's get underway. I'll just cover what we'll talk about today. We'll just go over briefly. I'll just have to apologise that slide jump forward there, but we'll look at briefly, very briefly, our truly all-inclusive luxury without exception, and the understanding of what that is like cruising on a super yacht. We'll then look at the whole reason you're going, those key journeys in the Arctic, as well as those rare crossing voyages, our commitment to your health, safety, and wellness, what it means to be booking now, as many are doing, to have that peace of mind, but also it's those flexible booking conditions. And finally, super early birds. It's where the money is and where those great offers are. By the end of this edition, we hope to see you join us in Antarctica on the world's first Discovery yachts. Now, I know we've said it a couple of times today, so if you are watching again, you know this. It'll be a brief rundown about people. You have cruised extensively, many of you, and on different cruise lines. And a big element of that and a big element of your cost and a big consideration is that truly all-inclusive. And with us, we do that truly all-inclusive luxury without exception. That is what we deliver. Throughout the presentation, Jason and I will highlight what we mean by this, and you can see how substantial that value is. Now, I will mention briefly that if guests do wish to have a spa experience, a helicopter or submarine, we're going to touch on later in the presentation how these work and why we offer them and why they are those experiences that guests might choose to do, but that you pay for. Forgetting those, everything you experience on and off board Scenic Eclipse is considered significant and included. We take in everything from dining, beverages, wellness, entertainment on board, shore excursions, touring, special events, right through to our impeccable butler service, all the Wi-Fi, the mini bar, transfers, all the tipping on board and off board, and everything is taken care of, which means you can relax with a carefree experience. So we want to introduce the Scenic Eclipse team. Jason, there's no one better to do that than you. Tell us a bit about the team.
Yeah, so the Discovery team in the Arctic is the full Discovery team. So there's 21 team members that's there, and they come from all over the world. And they truly are, when I handpick everybody, that to be there, to be part of your experience and to really enrich that experience. And so these folks, the Discovery team, like I said, are the best of the best. They come with PhDs and master degrees and multiple degrees in their specialty field. And on a given voyage, there'll be anywhere from 5 to 8 different countries represented within the Discovery team themselves. And they, they're truly professionals because not only are they well educated, but they have such passion and to share the experience with you. And truly, whether it's on board lecture series, because we'll have ornithologists on board, we'll have geologists, glaciologists, historians, biologists, and naturalists there for you. So our onboard lecture series focuses on especially what you're about to see or what you've seen, but then also what makes it different and unique with the Scenic Eclipse's Discovery team is they're not guest lecturers like you would see on many other ships. They're actually part of the team, so they're Zodiac drivers. So they would be your shuttle driver or part of your Zodiac cruise interpreter, but they're also on shore as well, interpreting what's happening in front of you, whether there's polar bears in the distance or the walruses or different birds that you'll see. They're there to really be part of that experience with you and help enrich by educating what's happening and more in depth about those species that you're seeing or the land that you're seeing, especially in the Arctic, is so different from Antarctica that we'll talk about, and the land itself, which makes her so unique.
Well, I can't wait till you get to that part. And you really touched on a great point there. I think that we can't ever underestimate the value of these people, because we're going to have so many questions and emotions in our mind, and they'll help unravel that. So look, let's move on and tell me a bit about this image. This shows how calm the waters are and how we managed to work this all with the yacht unfolding.
You know, they're my favorite images because it truly depicts what's happening on board Eclipse. Because I can tell you, when everything, all the discovery options are running simultaneously, the helicopter, the submarine, the excursions, it's like watching a ballet, a beautiful choreographed ballet, because board Scenic Eclipse, one, that you have all these options. Two, the fact that we're able to manage the operations for our guests, and whatever your choice would be for the, if you want to fly, want to dive, if you want to paddle, if you want to go to shore, great. If you just want to stay on board and enjoy the amenities the ship has to offer you, you can do that. And if you choose to fly, for instance, and you're slated to go on shore during that time frame, it's okay. You have your flight, and then when you get back on board, we'll get shore. Or if you got to go from shore back to the ship to catch a flight, it's okay. We'll make sure that happens for you. So we're truly there to accommodate those needs for everybody. So you won't miss out on anything.
That's a really good point. Again, you're revealing the fact that we're not under this pressure and cramming and jamming people into experiences, and how symbiotic the relationship is between
Yes.
this equipment that we have, the landscape, and connecting everything. So, the Scenic Eclipse is equipped with the state of the art Airbus helicopters. I've actually had the privilege as well, with seating 6 guests in taking a flight. So tell us a bit about this image and going on to the next one as well, Jason, after you.
Yeah, you know, and I'll say this over and over, that there truly is no experience like taking off from the ship and coming back on board her. And what gives you that unique experience, you can imagine, for instance, looking at this glacier tongue from the ship or by Zodiac, you're getting that sea level view. But when you fly within one of the two Scenic Eclipse helicopters, now you have this bird's eye view. You can see how long and how far that glacier has traveled from the mountains, to see the, in Greenland, the polar ice cap, in Greenland. But you can only see it from the helicopter, to truly give you that unique perspective that you wouldn't get from the water itself. And here in Greenland as well, where yes, we did Zodiac and ship cruises to the edge of this fjord, but to see it by the helicopter and how big and how vast it truly is, where you would never have that opportunity, and you would never know except from that bird's eye view from the helicopter itself. So it truly is. And one of the things that we make sure is, when you sign up, you do sign up on board Eclipse, so that embarkation day, whether it's for the helicopter, submarines, or paddling, we have a whole system in place. You will have a briefing by the helicopter pilots, or a briefing by the sub pilots, or the paddling guides. And after the briefing, they'll take the signups. And then from there, we can't tell you what day you'll fly or dive. We can't tell you what time at that moment. But the day before, when we know the weather's looking good, because everything is conditional on weather and conditions, but if it's looking good, we'll make our manifests for the day. We usually average anywhere from 8 to 10 helicopter flights that we can do in an excursion period, which would be a morning excursion or an afternoon excursion, another 8 to 10. And but the day before, you'll receive a ticket that'll tell you your times, your excursions, and where to meet in preparation for those excursions. And so you'll get that the day before, and then after your excursion is when then you would be charged. And just so you know, when we talk about all-inclusive and so on, in regards to the discovery options and opportunities, everything is included, but the helicopter does have an additional fee to it. And our helicopter flights, whatever region we're in, is usually long and our dives are about minutes long. But that does vary depending where in the world for flights or dives.
Yeah, and look, that makes sense. I mean, I imagine not everyone wants to do a helicopter or submarine, and there are different things such as permits, which we get approval on, and so on. So that also
Yes.
explains that charge. So here's the other end of the spectrum. Tell me a bit about
From above to below.
think when it comes now. You were in the Navy. I'm not sure if you got into a submarine like this, but how do people react when they go on this and come back off?
You know, on the submarine itself, on Scenic Neptune, obviously concerns is claustrophobia for some guests. And so as you notice, on both port starboard side, you have these big plexiglass bubbles. So truly that sense of openness in the sub. The sub itself has multiple redundancy systems for safety. And we also have emergency systems on the surface in a safety boat as well. So safety is paramount. And like I said, there are multiple redundancies on the sub for safety. And those are usually a couple questions that some guests may have. And when I dove on board her, you have no sense of the dive or no sense of coming back up. You're just in a bubble, and it's so weird. So when I was on board, and many of our guests do the same, is they'll ask the sub pilot, when you're exploring the ocean floor, can you turn the outside lights off when you're about to surface, so that, because you're in complete darkness if you're over 200 meters down, because she will dive up to 300 meters. And so you'll see complete darkness. And then as you start rising, the only sensation you have is you'll start seeing twilight. And then the ocean will get brighter and brighter and brighter. And then the next thing you know, you've broken the surface bubble and you had no sensation or reality. Crud, I just dove 200 meters and now I've just surfaced within 5-10 minutes. And it's an amazing experience. But remember, you may or may not see this aquatic life, but it's the experience of being in a submarine herself, which is truly unlike any other. And Eclipse is the first to offer helicopter and submarine operations for a cruise ship.
Yes, and look, I think you put that so eloquently. I felt as if I was on that journey myself. So now looking at on top of the water, what kind of uptake do you get, or what do we have with guests who do want to kayak?
Yeah, one of the big surprises on board for our paddlers is there's no charge. It's part of the all-inclusive package. And so where many of your other ships will charge you hundreds of dollars for a couple-hour paddle. And on board Scenic Eclipse, there's no charge. You will go through a briefing. We provide all your paddling equipment, your dry suits, everything you need. We have 2 certified paddling guides as well, and who have years of experience paddling in the polar regions. And so this photo was in southern Greenland itself, and 8 tandem kayaks, so up to 16 guests at a time per excursion. And your excursion usually will last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, depending on your comfort and well-being. So when you're paddling, that's your excursion. So there's no time to go to shore or helicopter flights or anything. So that's one thing, but we help you manage your schedule and everything. So we can always reschedule. And so when you're paddling, you would sign up. We'd let you know the day before of your excursion times. And like I said, with the helicopters, the submarine, the paddling, we've never not had the opportunity, because of conditions and weather, where guests can actually paddle multiple times on their excursion. So if you just love it, you can paddle, at least 2 or 3 times if you like, but also you don't need any experience. We don't require any experience to paddle. We will show you what you need to do. We will have you outfitted properly, and you'll feel comfortable and safe, especially with our guides and our tandems. And what you don't see is we always have a safety zodiac in the distance that's always there with our paddlers, just off in the distance slightly, so we don't ruin that pristine solitude and quietness out there. And but if a kayak was to roll, or there's a walrus or a polar bear nearby, our safety zodiac will come right in and manage the situation. So never ever to worry. We always have those redundancies in safety.
And that is the ultimate way to once again explain the degree we go to with our expertise, our luxury experience, but also the level of the crew and the team that Jason introduced you to before. Now, another part of this discovery, Jason, is zodiacs. And we were talking earlier today. I'm not too confident sometimes on my, but can you talk us through what this zodiac experience is like?
Sure. So zodiacs are our workhorse, so to speak. And like I mentioned, our discovery team, Adrian here, who is driving, who is in the orange suit, um, and getting on and off the ship, very easy. We manage it very well. We have multiple crew on the ship, as well as our Zodiac driver in the Zodiac, helping our guests on and off a Zodiac. It's just literally like walking down a staircase, the way we have it set up. And you would sit on the pontoons on the edges. And our Zodiac driver, of course, will give you the safety briefings and the briefings when you can stand, when you can't stand. But with a Zodiac cruise itself, it's about you. It's not where the driver wants to go, it's where you want to go. If you see something you want to take a photograph of, the driver, he or she, will get you there. If the driver is trained to spot whales a mile away, or something in the water, not penguins in the Arctic, but seals, and so on, and birds, the driver will see it, they'll have their binoculars, they'll head to it to give you that enriching experience. And because they are professionals in their fields, they'll be able to interpret what you're seeing, the habits of that marine life you're seeing, or the beauty of the icebergs, the sculpted that you'll see behind you, where they're from, how they form, the the coloration of them, and so on. So it truly is an experience. But then also we use our zodiacs to shuttle you from the ship to shore, whether it's a beach landing or a rock landing. Regardless, the zodiacs will get you there, and the discovery team will be there on shore to greet you and provide the safety briefing for you, and be there to help you get on and off the zodiac from shore itself.
And viewers, if any of you did miss our earlier presentation on the yachts, there was a bit more detail on how this all unfolds. But certainly I can agree there with Jason, and particularly in this region where we've got 18 to 20 hours of daylight a day, I'm pretty sure we'll be very busy, or as much as we can be. So we touched on it before, Jason, and you said that you wanted to just give us a few of the top differences between Antarctica, which is something most of us down this part of the world know well, and the Arctic. Just give us a bit of a rundown on that.
Yeah, so one of the biggest differences is obviously the landscape. Now, Antarctica is very volcanic, but the Arctic more so, whether we're in Iceland, and that we know a volcano is erupting right now in Iceland, that's made the world news, or in Greenland or Svalbard or the Russian Arctic. It's the opportunity to go on longer extended hikes because the weather is more milder in the regions of the Arctic. Now, if we're above the Arctic Circle, it'll be comparable to being down in Antarctica, but even above the Arctic Circle in their summer, it's still mild compared to many other regions of the world in their winter time. So the landscape, the geology is like no other. The geology features that you'll see that our geologists will point out date back to the formation of the world itself, before the millions of years before the dinosaurs even roamed the earth, millions of years before the first single-celled microbe that were the building blocks of us and life on earth. You'll see that geology right in front of you. And that's where our specialists really come out and shine and share their passion. So that's, and then of course the wildlife that you're going to see is so much more diverse in the Northern Hemisphere and compared to the southern hemisphere. So of course the seals that you're going to see are very different from the walruses, which are one of those, you know, money shots that everybody wants to see. So of course we're out looking for walruses themselves, and to the polar bears. And one question that I get often, whether I'm in Antarctica or the Arctic, for instance, down in Antarctica, I was the Zodiac driver on a Zodiac cruise, and I had a sheik um, from Abu Dhabi and his harem and entourage there on my Zodiac. And it was towards the end of the excursion. And so they asked the question, his secretary asked, because I saw him whisper, and of course he didn't ask me, but asked, haven't we seen polar bear yet? And as a discovery guide, and as I tell my guides, when you get a question like that, there's a 10-second rule. Do not answer for 10 seconds because you'll embarrass yourself and you don't want to say something snarky. And so, but this question was really unique to where, yeah, why? If climate change is affecting the polar bears and they're on the endangered species list, why can't they relocate? So at that time, we had 3 marine biologists, all PhDs. And I asked them after the Zodiac cruise, the question came up, why can't they relocate polar bear? And it took them 2 days to come back with an answer because it kind of stumped them too. And so this is a great photo. And the reason why is 2 things. One, their circadian rhythm, because remember, they're in the northern hemisphere, not the southern. So the winters and summers are different. So their hibernation cycle is different. And they said it takes 2 to 3 generations for a species to adapt to anything. So one, they would not survive the flop in seasons, but also the seals. Their main staple of food are different. So they wouldn't recognize what they feed on down in Antarctica versus the seals they feed on in the Arctic. And also, so it was really fascinating that we were able to stump them too. And then I've had questions, why haven't we seen penguins up there? And it's a similar question. It's because the penguins are in the southern hemisphere of the earth and they're not up north, except in zoos and so on. But they wouldn't survive because there's more apex predators in the Arctic than there are in Antarctica. So they would just see it as food and the penguins would not be able to survive, but their circadian rhythm would be off as well.
I have a feeling, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I have a feeling
please, go ahead.
everyone wants to do both polls now.
You know, and exactly. And you're going to see there is a species that I'll get into in a second. And I'll give you that bit of trivia, but I'll wait till that slide comes up. But here, more of the diverse wildlife. You'll see the reindeer, you'll see moose, you'll see Arctic fox, you'll see muskox, you'll see so many other diverse mammals on land and have that opportunity to go hiking, you know, more on land. Now, safety wise, because that is number one, in the Arctic region versus Antarctica, we do have polar bear guards. So our discovery team are certified in rifle handling, and same as our kayak guides and on the Zodiac. But that is the last deterrent. We have other deterrents that we use. So if there is a polar bear in the area, but we do set polar bear guards who do set a parameter around the beach and the landing. If you are on a hike, our guides are polar bear trained as well, because obviously, as we know, and we've heard, polar bears are not quite as friendly. And so they just see us and everything as food. So that's why safety is paramount. And so that's another difference that you would see with our guides. They will carry rifles and other deterrents in the Arctic versus Antarctica. And then also continuing on with the different species that you'll see here. And this next one is a bit of trivia. When you join us in Antarctica, let's say you joined us in Antarctica first, there's one species that actually migrates between the 2 polar regions. And it's the only species that does. And it's the Arctic tern. So in Antarctica, we would take you around some Antarctic tern colonies, maybe Enterprise Island, where there's a colony that I know of, and a shipwreck in the area. But also, if you join us then the following Arctic season, a few months later, those Arctic terns will migrate all the way up to the Arctic. And so the colonies that you'll see here of Arctic terns could be an opportunity, could be the same species that you saw that just transitioned, migrated the entire length of the globe from south to north and then back down south again. So very fascinating, especially for our birders down there. And then of course, if we're in the Russian Far East or the Russian Arctic and the Northeast Passage, on some of the other unique species that you'll see. So the Arctic truly holds a larger, array of species that you'll see of wildlife in the different regions of the Arctic that we go to. And as mentioned, whether it's Iceland, Norway, Svalbard, the Russian Far East, the Russian archipelago, Franz Josef Land to the northwest, northeast passages, not only do you have the opportunity to see diverse species and lands, but villages. And we'll also visit those remote Inuit villages throughout our voyages. So here, whether it's in Svalbard, Greenland, or Iceland, those remote villages, and in this particular photograph, which is really cool, this is actually in Iceland. It's in a remote area of Iceland, and it's the largest remote village in Iceland itself. And one unique opportunity as we keep going through seeing the different villages is we put together unique scenic and rich opportunities for our guests. So whether we're visiting an Icelandic village or if we're in Greenland somewhere or the Canadian Arctic, where we would visit a remote Inuit village that is set up where they'll have coffee and cake for you in their community center and have some local cuisine, prepared for you and just for you, for our guests. And they'll talk their history, their survival, and what they survive on and their hunting and so on. So we really try to, at least on those Arctic voyages when we can, and when we're visiting those villages, to have that scenic and rich opportunity for you. And whether it's an Icelandic village or as we continue on into Greenland, we'll visit some remote small villages to little teeny fishing villages that we visited in Greenland that have no more than maybe 50, 60 people there. They all have a boat. And one unique thing, and to a town, maybe a medium-sized town like on this photograph here, is that in Greenland, no roads connect the villages, no roads connect the towns and the communities. It's only by snowmobile or boats. Mostly by boats is how the villagers get around to visit friends and relatives and other communities itself. And one little fun fact you notice, this, not so much in modern day now, but back in the day, you always see color-coded buildings when you're looking at Inuit villages and communities. And back in the day, those colors represent hospitals, stores, houses are the different colors. And like I said, hospitals are one color, stores, different types of stores are different colors, because during the Arctic winters, when there's no sunlight, that makes it easier through torches, whether it was flame torches in the day or headlamps or whatever, how they can find the different buildings they're looking for, because they don't have street lights. They don't have that kind of lighting there other than generators for their own homes, but not within the community itself, to where we do go visit larger communities and larger cities, like you'll see on the following slide. And there we not only try to have a scenic and rich opportunity, but we'll also have tours set up for you. So this is where it's kind of a hybrid, where we'll have all 21 scenic discovery team on board, but we also have tours set up for you. And whether it's visiting the fishing village itself, or visiting the fish market, or the museums and so on, but we'll have that all set up for you. And that's all part of what we call this scenic free choice. And that's all part of the inclusive package that Zena spoke about as well for our guests. So it's really an amazing opportunity to see Antarctica in the rawness and the largest wildlife refuge, and going up to the Arctic and seeing a whole diverse of wildlife, but also visiting, you know, the local communities and speaking with the local villagers. Now, remember, most don't speak English at all, but we do have translators, villagers who do speak English and their native language to translate and interpret for you. And we have that all set up ahead of time.
Now, I can imagine also that, I can also imagine that what happens is a lot of these villages won't experience yachts, cruise lines coming into their space. So the one-on-one engagement and really immersing guests into that kind of experience and connection is something that you just don't find anywhere else. So this image enthralls me. Can you tell me a bit about what's going on here, or if you have a memory of what happens that particular moment?
Yeah, so that last photograph with Scenic Neptune and our sub-pilots is actually where that was taking place was, yep, right here, was off the coast of Canada itself. And this is the safety boat with the submarine as the sub is just getting ready to dive itself. So our Discovery guide shuttled our guests to the submarine. We transferred our guests on board the submarine, and they pull away. And this is the sub about getting ready to dive upon their dive. And in this particular dive, they were going about 120 meters down, where they were spending about 40 minutes. And there's actually a seawall. So they were diving along the edge of the seawall itself, because that's where you see so many sea life itself on the wall. So that was an awesome diving site that we found there. And here I just want to, conclude, on onboard Eclipse, that to give you a true perspective of where you are. Here we're talking about the Arctic, but not just the Arctic, the world. That nowhere else but on board Scenic Eclipse can you explore where you are by air, or under the water on board Scenic Neptune, or on the water by Zodiac, kayaking. In the Arctic, just to say, we don't paddleboard that often because of the risks, but in certain locations of the Arctic, in southern Greenland we would, and in southern Iceland we would, but in most regions we don't. But when the opportunities presents, we do. So on the water or on land as well, through our land tours, our Scenic Enrich, Scenic Free Choice with the tours that I mentioned, or guided by the Discovery team on a hike to a wildlife breeding area, or where we know over that hill, from the hill view, to look at a colony of some kind of wildlife, whether it's the birds or seals or polar bears, it could be anything. And but on board Scenic Eclipse, and all while guided by your professional Discovery team themselves, will always be with you and interpreting what you're seeing and what's unfolding behind, in front of you, but also keeping you safe, because that's what they're there for.
And I think you've really underpinned that message well, and thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are, as you can see today, very excited for what's in store for the future. And we meet many people every day, and I know that booking for a rare and far-flung destination for Australians and New Zealanders is now being done 2 to 3 years in advance. And the bookings certainly do show that. So I'm just about to touch on those highly sought after itineraries, and those will include those rare passage crossings, and they certainly do book out well in advance. And I know myself, they sell themselves, and there is a reason for this. If you combine the ingredients of what Jason said, these are seasonal destinations. There's a maximum of 200 guests on board, and it's a product unlike anything else in this sector. So then experiencing the Arctic Scenic Eclipse will become a very high demand. So keep that in the back of your mind now. Delay could lead to missing out. So let's move on to the best part and the whole reason you're going, and some of the key cruise itineraries we have on offer. Well, we'll start with the Arctic in depth, and we operate this from Oslo to Oslo. And if you want to make a note now, we have a departure in July 2022, next year, and in July 2023. We fly in and out of Longyearbyen and cruise along the Svalbard archipelago. And of course, back to Longyearbyen and Oslo. This area, Jason was talking about it. It's about the enormous peaks. They make it a powerful visit, and we're going right into that kingdom of the polar bear, cruising in the zodiacs along those glacial fronts, and they're home to the seals, the kittiwakes, the guillemots, all the bird life. And I will say there's a bit of diversity in this area as well. I'm not sure, and you might want to make a note and look this one up later. Have you ever heard of the Arctic flowers? Well, that's a great phenomenon in this part of the world. Have a look at that one later. Our next journey, the Arctic islands, Svalbard, Greenland, and Iceland. Now, this again, we have a departure in July 2022 and July 2023, again, from Longyearbyen to Reykjavik. Again, the Svalbard archipelago is that polar desert we've spoken about with those rugged glaciers. And tapping back into what Jason was saying before, we have those experienced captains and discovery leaders and team, and they are going to use their expertise to design this section of your voyage day to day and make the most of those long daylight hours. But also, we have touched on, there are weather and ice conditions. So we'll combine all that to give you the best experience possible in this part of the world. And just to reassure you, we do conduct our voyages here at the prime time for all the wildlife spotting. Of course, that's a major reason for going. Here's one that I just said we just have to stop the traffic for, and that is a voyage. And I really ask you to look into this one on the website and in your brochure. Russia's Far East. Now, this will operate in May and July 2023. Between Anchorage and Vladivostok. We're crossing the international date line, cruising the Bering Sea into Providenia, Kamchatka coast, and that is just in those words the definition. We are going remote, and this is the most perfect region to marry our beautiful yacht on a discovery voyage on board Scenic Eclipse. This is a scarcely visited part of the world. And we have a few different bears here. There's an abundance of wildlife. It's teeming with the brown bears, the reindeer, and the Arctic foxes, and they're roaming freely. And due to the extraordinary nature of this region, I'll touch on again, the sailing and expedition schedule is flexible. We tap into that expertise and that knowledge of the team. We collaborate to deliver you the best experiences. But before I move on to the next one, I'll tell you a brief story about the Commander Islands. These are one of the best places on Earth to see our whales. But there is a place before we conclude, which is Petropavlovsk. And it's overlooked by two giant volcanoes and surrounded by a long line of snow-capped mountains. Take a look at this place and you'll see why you want to do this journey, because there are only a couple of dates, and ladies and gentlemen, these are the ones where these destinations are almost impossible to visit any other way. And I'm certain if you talk to your friends, they would never have heard of it. Introducing another new journey. Jason, I might throw to you just for this one. It's known as Fire and Ocean in the Ring of Fire, and this is in the Kamchatka and Kurils, offered in June and July 2023. us a bit of a rundown on your take on this region.
I cannot tell you how excited and stoked I am about this trip, as well as so many of the Discovery team members all trying to sign on to it. We are focusing on, like Zita mentioned, the Ring of Fire. So we want to visit as many of the remote locations, the remote volcanoes, as we journey, down from Nome, Alaska, through the different islands and through Russia, and then down into Japan itself, and visiting, most importantly, these seldom visited remote areas, but also as we get closer to Japan and everything, and visiting that Asian culture. And I lived actually over 3.5 years in Japan. And so I'm really excited to bring trips there and show all our guests, what Japan truly has to offer. And we're working on putting together, locations that are seldom visited, even in Japan, not your common protocols, but more, because remember, she's a discovery yacht, and we want to provide that expedition feel. And we're working on our day-to-day excursions and itineraries in those remote areas, so you can truly get a full flavor and feel of the local culture and the local scene that so few ever get to see outside of their area.
Yeah, I heard, before I move on to the next one, that it's now an area that's uninhabited, and the Russian border guards were living there, and they left in 2005, and apparently they only had a few hours to just leave the island. And it's like a living time capsule, because they literally dropped what they were doing, having their cup of tea or whatever it was, and have left that behind for us to have that moment of recall and visit through. Oh, it just jumped ahead on me. There we go. Well, look, let me introduce. This is the big kahuna, as they say in other times, the Northeast Passage. One sailing on 6 August 2023. And let me say, this voyage crosses the legendary Northeast Passage and across the top of Russia. We are traveling from Nome and across to Tromsø in Norway. And just like the Northwest Passage, which I'll talk about in a minute, this area is covered in ice most of the year, and you can count on one hand how many have been privileged to do this journey. It is the number one, you'd say, extremely scarce experience. So we're in the most remote and westerly parts of the United States, on the shore of the Bering Sea, and cruising toward the Arctic Ocean, and our first feelings will stir that you really are in an impossibly rare place on the planet. It's mountainous, shrouded in mystery, and the archipelago also separates the Barents and the Kara Seas, and this still can remain some of Russia's most guarded regions. So a lot of history comes with that, and it was in the past strictly prohibited for visitors. However, we may very well be amongst the very few that have visited a couple of years ago, and our journey will be next into Russia's National Arctic Park, established by Putin. Oh yeah, go.
Oh yeah, if I can add one thing, the reason why we can go is because Eclipse was built specific for this, with their Class 6 ice-rated hull, which is the highest ice class rating for a cruise ship. And a Class 6 is actually just one level below an actual icebreaker itself. And because of that, we're able to get the permits and permissions to go into the Russian Far East and that Northeast Passage, because of her technology and what she was built for.
And that's a big point. There ain't many out there that can do that. Now, speaking of the Northwest Passage, we have 4 sailings. So folks, you can see limited passenger numbers and certainly limited journeys here. So in August 2022 and 2023. And again, from Nome, Alaska, across the top of the world and into, just before we conclude here, is actually Disco Bay, Greenland. Here we're following the footsteps of the most intrepid explorers, and we're traversing through that passage right through the heart of the Arctic. And if I can just finish by saying one word in the way to describe this, and I just say it has to be epic, because there's only a 6-week window of opportunity to pass through each year, and that's due to the sea and the ice conditions. So as you can imagine, and what Jason just said, a very few number of vessels have the capability to handle this region. Yet we have an ultra luxury, world's first discovery yachts, and they are custom designed with those state-of-the-art safety features you can view on the ship presentation. And that shows you how we enable you to be one of the privileged to make this fabled crossing. Now, that concludes the journeys, but we just wanted to give you a very brief rundown on the voyage style, and this will really help you define what you'd like to do most. So when choosing a Scenic Eclipse voyage, it's important that each person chooses the right experience for you. So we've categorized, to make it simple, into 3 voyage experiences. Number 1, expedition, then discovery and cruise. Jason, what's a really brief description on our expedition voyages?
Sure. So on Scenic Expedition Voyages, it is in the polar regions, and you have the full complement of the Discovery team, which is 21 Discovery members, and of course the Discovery leader themselves. And so that's where the Discovery team themselves are part of all of the Discovery options for you. So everything you're doing is full expedition mode, so to speak, Discovery mode, and everything is led and guided by the Discovery team themselves. And then on your Scenic Discovery voyage itself, it's kind of a hybrid. I alluded to earlier where we have 15 Discovery members on board. This region is more your South America, Central America, the US, parts of Canada, regions where you have both expedition mode type voyages where the Discovery team is actually managing your day-to-day, but there's times where we'll actually go into a port. And when we're in that port, we'll have the Scenic Enrich, we'll have the Scenic Free Choice opportunities. We'll have all different tours set up for you that you can choose to go on. And the Discovery team will be on the different tours alongside with you as well. And we may also have some Discovery options taking place simultaneously with those tours. And then of course your Scenic Cruise voyage is where we're in the Mediterranean and maybe the Caribbean. And there we would have 4 Discovery team members on board because you're hitting ports every day and doing tours every day. But there's times where we won't be in a port. We may be dropping anchor. Well, Eclipse doesn't drop anchor. It's actually what we call its DPS, Dynamic Positioning System, where the captain just pushes a button and she holds place. And it's used by GPS technology and her technology on board. And there we have 4 Discovery members on board, basically managing your water sports. Because you're in warm waters, we'll have kayaking, paddleboarding, snorkeling, and we'll even have water skiing and wakeboarding. And so the Discovery members on board are water specialists, but also providing lectures too. So they could be historians, marine biologists, and geologists for you on there. So that's the difference between the 3 in regards to the Discovery team and Discovery options.
Well, viewers, that makes it easier for you to start planning what your next cruise is. And thank you, Jason. I think it makes me want to do them all. Look, as we conclude the presentation, please do stay on. This is a very important part for our viewers. So we all know the world is different, and our number 1 priority at the Scenic Group has always been and continue to be the guests' health, safety and well-being. And we've said that many times, and this expands right across our fleet. So currently, as you can imagine, we have a health and safety steering committee. They're working with training, ensuring you can travel with confidence. that it is of the highest standard, working closely with government agencies, the Cruise Line International Association, and all other involved parties to ensure we will exceed the latest regulatory requirements and implement the most recent insights and technologies to exceed the cleanliness required. You will be informed of these important procedures in advance of your journey, but also you can find more information on our website. Now, let's talk about the next step. It really is, and I've touched on it before, now's the time of booking these epic journeys. They book out 2 and 3 years ahead. So we've come together and combined your ability to travel and feel confidence into 2022 and beyond. And the way we've done that is offer you on our incredible yacht experience, our flexible booking policy for new bookings. So when you're cruising through oceans, more than ever, we now know that that small size matters. So with the small size, and if you saw our ship presentation, we have more space. Combine that also with a flexible booking offer, and we give you that peace of mind. What the flexible booking policy is breaking it down into 3 parts. First, we allow you to defer your plans up to 60 days prior to your cruise commencing. We do not charge fees, however, third-party fees, for example, if an airline charges, would be passed on. Secondly, we offer you complimentary deposit protection. Now, this is valued up to $500 per couple and will give you that extra peace of mind. And thirdly, and you can find this one on our website, and I absolutely encourage you to take a great look at it, is our Platinum Protection Plan, which is $595 per person. And this is newly launched, and it gives you that risk-free. By adding this, you're covered if you're unable to travel due to reasons that you can't prevent, such as health, or if travel is impacted by COVID, and a few other reasons there. It allows for a 100% refund up to 31 days prior departure. And again, if there's third-party fees, those will be passed on. They're owned by airlines and so on. So just before we get to the very end, I just wanted to say our super early birds are on offer now. And they're very important because they give you the best offer to travel forward and allow you to choose your suite, your preferred departure date, and your preferred journey. Now, these are for a limited time and limited numbers. So if you take advantage of the super early bird offer, you're saving yourself 10% if you find that fair. But you can save yourself up to 20% if you also choose to pay a year in advance. And that takes you well into next year at looking at doing that transaction. Now, these offers are available until sold out. But we again encourage you, I would just say my best advice to you is you've spent the time today, some of you have been on all these sessions, take a look at the journey you're looking at and start with that quote. You can contact Scenic or your local travel advisor. So, ladies and gentlemen, we also have developed a full range of online presentations, and you can view these whenever you like. It takes in all the destinations we travel to, and there is some inspiring footage of videos from Getaway, and that's a show that's screened every Saturday on Channel 9. Now, if you do want to show these, see these travel showcases, go to scenic.com.au/travel showcase. If you're in Australia, if you're in New Zealand, scenicnz.com/travel showcase. Now, I can see we've had a number of questions come up during the session, so we'll answer a couple of these if you like right now, and we've had a great number of questions engaging. So one question was, will a copy of the presentation be available after the session? Yes, and also particularly if you did register for those offers and deals, that will be sent to you. Now, if you did miss out, that's the great reason to give us a call and we can forward that to you. We also have another question, Jason. How many people does the Scenic Neptune hold?
Scenic Neptune will hold up to 6 guests, and the 7th being the pilot themselves.
Excellent. And actually, this is a really good one. Will there ever be a winter time tour so that we can see the Northern Lights?
That's an excellent question. The issue is during the winter, we'll be down in Antarctica for its summer. But with that said, as the Scenic Eclipse fleet grows over the next several years, we will have ships in the region, permanently in the region, where those opportunities can arise.
Excellent. That is so exciting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all these questions that we have here, and if you have some more now, just before I wrap, type them in. We will reach out and contact you within the next couple of days and answer those for you personally.
Oh, Zena.
Yes. Oh, do. I was just about to wrap, but I'd love you to finish off.
I just had a thought. You know, when I was up in the Arctic, because I was her discovery leader during her maiden voyages, and this was in July, August, we had some incredible Northern Light shows going on. So it's not just in their winter, we were seeing the lights, and I was seeing beautiful greens and pinks during the summer as well.
Thank you for saying that. I've heard that. I mean, obviously we can't guarantee that will always happen, but I've heard that
Right.
very common thing. So thank you for that. Well, viewers, if you've been on all 3 sessions today, thank you. If you haven't,
Thank you.
to learn exactly about Antarctica or our wonderful discovery yachts, please, you can view those sessions as well. On behalf of Jason, I just want to say thank you. Your debut into the Australian webinar market has been incredible. Thank you so much. Your knowledge has been
Thank you.
entrancing, mesmerizing, and expert. So thank you so much, Jason.
No, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. Well, look, the popularity, as I've said, ladies and gentlemen, I can't stress enough. If you are looking for that ultimate experience, just have a look at what the next step is. Those limited numbers of and guests really means we do sell out. We want to thank you for your ongoing support. If you're new to Scenic and you have not yet had that experience to travel with us, we look forward to seeing you on board in the near future for an experience, unlike anywhere else that you have ever had before. Bon voyage, and this presentation will now stop broadcasting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Jace, I'll call you on WhatsApp.
Okay. All right. Ciao.